This is the Sattler Files. Howard's Army. Brought to you by DevWright, Homes of Distinction.
Hello and welcome back to the Sattler Files. I'm Bill Massie and I run Howard's Army, our helping hand for people in trouble. People who may need a hand up to get their lives back together, back to normality. Before I introduce our special guest today, I wish to acknowledge our sponsors, DevWright Homes of Distinction, Jay and Ron Mangano. If you're ever looking to build a nice home, DevWright Homes of Distinction, they're our sponsors. Wonderful homes, wonderful people. Last weekend, Howard and I joined a number of other invited guests to Swan Valley to the facility called Shalom House. Shalom House is a rehab centre that offers to restore the lives of men and families. I state men and families in our community. Who are these men? What are their problems and what awaits them should they decide to undertake Shalom's Tough Love course? Let me introduce you to Shalom's founder, to the Sattler Files, Peter Lyndon James. Welcome, Peter.
Morning, Bill, mate. How are you?
Good, thank you. Peter, how does your clients find out their way to Shalom?
Well, believe it or not, Bill, a lot of it's by word of mouth until probably last 6 months or so. We put a web page up, but most of the time by word of mouth.
So they don't get referred by doctors or anyone?
No, we don't actually take referrals, Bill. The person wanting the help needs to be the one that actually puts the effort in and initiates contact.
So what kind of problems do they bring to the programme?
What you should be asking me is what kind of problems don't they bring to the program, Bill?
Right.
Literally every problem you can think of. We have addiction, heroin, speed, unforgiveness, bitterness, resentment, anger, hostility, suicidal tendencies, family separation, homelessness, you name it, we've got it.
So addicts for all different purposes.
No, that's it. We help any man and couples with life-controlling issues. Anything that stops a person living a whole, full and complete normal life, a productive member of society. So it could be addiction, it could be Asperger's, anxiety, depression, anything that stops a person being whole, full and complete.
I describe the philosophy behind the programme as tough love. How does that play out? I think you're a bit of a sergeant major in this field.
I wouldn't call it tough love. I'd call it cause and effect and common sense and truth. And so what we do is we walk in truth. It's not okay to lie. It's not okay to steal. It's not okay to gossip. It's not okay to whinge and complain behind people's backs. I mean, if you touch a hot plate, you get burnt. So what I do with my fellows, we give them the first one. If you do something, you say, I'm sorry, that's no worries. The second time around, you have to look at the circumstances that unfolded as the person did what they did, and you give them some sort of consequence the third time. Well, sadly, the third time you've got to hand them over to the consequence of their choices. It's just common sense. You're not supposed to spare the rod from your child, and how we learn is through the consequences of our choices. Every decision that we make has a consequence, and sometimes you've actually got to suffer the consequence of your choices to learn.
You're prepared to kick people out if they're not prepared to play by the rules.
That's correct.
Even smoking, is that right?
That's correct. So we laid the foundation for them to enter Shalom. We have the title known as the strictest rehabilitation centre in Australia, and I'd say that's true. But before the fellows enter our program, we lay the boundaries down pretty clear. If you so much as pick up a cigarette butt, we kick you off the property. If you see somebody else within our facility that picked up a cigarette butt and you don't speak up on that person's behalf and bring truth to it, we also kick you out. And we are really, really strict. Now and again, we have to use one person as an example. For example, not long ago, we took a busload of 30 fellas down to Albany, and a couple of them smoked a cigarette, so we just kicked them out on the side of the road and they got their own way back.
Yeah, tough love, right enough. Does anyone get a second chance?
Everyone gets a second chance, Bill. The key to change is repentance. The key to change is owning up to your mistakes and saying, I'm sorry. If someone genuinely and sincerely comes up to me and says, Peter, I've made a mistake, I'm sorry, I have no excuse for my actions, what I did was wrong, no, I'm always willing to give them a second chance, a third chance, and as many as required.
What has the ICE epidemic done to your numbers? Last count was about 53 clients at the Swan Valley facility.
We have a capacity for 60 fellas. We're pretty much nearly capacity, but I'd say the percentage of residents that we have in our facility would be probably 90% from methamphetamines.
So these 60 fellas, are they all housed at the one facility, or you got separate homes around the area?
And we actually have 8 leases. Our main facility holds 30 with overflow of 3. Another facility we have around the corner is 20. And we have 3 or 4 other external properties, which are stage 3 and 4 houses, and also couple houses. Couples actually look after the partner and their wife when we disciple them as a couple.
I don't know if it's sad or if it's good, but many businesses are always looking at growth. Have you got a growth program? It's because of the epidemic. There will be more and more drug addicts. Many are looking for recovery. So
we don't actually have a plan for growth, Bill. I do what I can with every day. Every day is a gift. I was given today as a gift. And as I go about my day, I've got a lot of decisions that I need to make. I've got a lot of stuff on my lap, and all I do is look after what's on my lap. Shalom's made up in many different parts. For example, we have 22 staff, 8 properties. We're 100% self-funded. And so all the decisions that I need to make in accordance with that, as you do what you do and you clean the dust out of the wheels and the cogs continue to spin, I think the automatic flow or effect of that is growth.
So out of your 22 staff, some of them would be volunteers?
Many volunteers, Bill.
Wonderful people, volunteers.
Many
You've got to
volunteers.
take your hats off to them every day.
Most of my staff work for nothing. Myself personally, I don't take anything from Shalom in any way, shape or form. I've been a full-time volunteer since July 2010, so I don't have an income. My wife works to support me. A lot of my staff work 5 days a week and I get paid for 2.
Who pays for their treatment, Peter? Their housing, their feeding, everything, all the requirements?
Well, I believe that all of us are where we are because of our choices, that every decision we make has a consequence. And so from the day that my fellows come into the house, all I do is provide a safe place for them to do what they need to do. I charge each one $300 a week. Now, the Centrelink that we've set up in our society is a short-term emergency thing that's set up to help people when they get in a bit of a pickle. It's not something that we should live life off. Unfortunately and fortunately, we charge each one of our residents $300 a week, and with rent assistance, Centrelink actually covers that. But normally with all our residents that come through our program, within 6 to 7 months, we all have them all off of their Centrelink benefits, and we have them back into society being a normal, productive member of society. If it wasn't for Centrelink, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. But we don't rely on their money, but for the short term, it does help my fellas get their life on track. But we make sure that as the program unfolds, the fellas need to make the decisions to change their life. I don't believe that society, I don't believe that the government, I don't believe that other people should pay for my mistakes. And so I put that to my fellas. And as I come alongside my fellas, I help them to make right choices, and they pay for the rehabilitation. They pay as their life changes.
So do you have financial supporters, and would you like to give them a plug?
And we don't actually have financial supporters, Bill. I don't openly ask people for money, and we are a registered not-for-profit charity. We have charitable collections licence, a DGR status. You do get a tax deduction if you donate to Shalom. And we don't actually have any financial supporters. Now and again, we do get people who donate, but we don't ask people for anything.
Food Bank, are they one of your...
Food Bank is exceptional. Again, when we started Shalom, that's an organisation set up to help people in need. We do all our shopping at Food Bank, where they charge us like $1 a kilo. If it wasn't for Food Bank, we wouldn't be able to function. When you're feeding 53 men, obviously that's a big cost. And so if it wasn't for Food Bank, basically we'd have to shut our program. We can't afford to do what we do. As it is, we run on the smell of an oily rag. Every dollar with us counts, and Food Bank has actually helped us to do what we do. And I can't honour a Food Bank enough.
Well done. Great organisation. And your success rate, is it a high success?
Yeah, people think on success. I mean, I've actually had time to put into the stats. Up until recently, we did have a 100% success rate for every person that completed the program. But I've been thinking recently, I probably won't be using that anymore. I don't. How would you define success? Would you define it someone living whole, full, and complete, free from the influence of substances, or would you get someone who didn't come in with a substance background? How would you actually do that?
That's a good question, isn't it? That's an all-day question, that one.
Yeah, so I've been thinking of the last few days, but what our program does work. It does work.
So, why are you doing this? It's one of these things that's coming from your heart, obviously, but to share with other people.
The reason why is that I spent 26 years myself. I'm in institutions and prisons. I've been sticking needles in my arms since I was a 9-year-old boy. I spent 7 years in a boys' prison called Longmore, another 2 years in another prison called Riverbank. I'd be out for a day, back in for a month, back out for a month, back in for 11 months. I became what they call institutionalised. I got put in a children's home for running away from children's homes. not for committing crimes. All I wanted was my mum and my dad. My mum and my dad made some silly choices, and because of their silly choices, I made silly choices. And when I got put into prison, I learned how to steal and break into houses and do some silly stuff. But the whole time I was in the institutions and prisons, I didn't want to be who I was, but I didn't know how to change. I tried to hang around the geeks or the normal people. I felt like I was a weed, that I didn't belong. So I went back to where I felt comfortable. But the problem is, where I felt comfortable, everybody was doing what I didn't want to do, and I was trapped. So 26 years institutions and prisons until the year of, I think it was 2001. I was selling on average of 2.5 kilos of methamphetamines a day and heaps of guns and explosives and a lot of silly stuff. I got nuked, and what I mean by nuked, Bill, I had an encounter with God, become a Christian. I went back to prison, came out of prison. I done 3 years Bible college at Riverview Bible College. I got an advanced diploma in theology, and then I was a volunteer prison chaplain at Acacia Prison for just on 5 years, 3 days a week. Now, my family is the person that grew up in the prison or the institution or addicted to drugs or on the streets. That's who I grew up with from the age of 9. And a lot of us within the institutions and the prisons, we don't want to be who we are. But often there's a lot of deeper issues that actually cause us to be who we are. I was sexually abused as a child. I was dumped by my parents, and I went through a lot of bad stuff. Now, I found a way out of the prison. I found a way to get the prison out of the prisoner. I found a way to actually set a person free. And the reason what I do is now I've found a way I want to show others the same. But I don't mess around. I am really, really strict.
Yes. This is a community service that you're providing, but yet your local shire, the Swan Shire, would like to shut you down. Where is that still shut at this stage?
Yeah, I'm not too sure if they want to shut us down. I think that when you call a place Rehabilitation Centre, I think that the lack of education within the community as to what actually defines or what happens within that Rehabilitation Centre can create a fear in some people. Unfortunately, I didn't mean to create or start a Rehabilitation Centre. It just honestly just did actually happen. Where we are, the zoning on our property isn't zoned for what we're doing, and so because the zoning isn't right, the Shire is actually asking us to, or trying to challenge us being there. We've won the State Administrative Tribunal hearing, and just now the Swan Shire is challenging the SAT outcome, and they're taking us to the Supreme Court.
Peter, you're a tough, no-nonsense bugger. Where does that originate from?
There's a bit of silence there. I don't know. But most people think what I say, but I say what I think. I really don't care what you think of me, Bill. I don't care what your listeners think of me. I don't care what my staff think. I really don't care what anyone thinks of me in any way, shape or form. I'm not interested in building friendships. I'm interested in changing lives. And sometimes you need somebody outside of your circle to help you see what you can't see. And I always say exactly what I think. I don't say what I think to hurt people. I say what I think because I care.
Peter, look, I admire you. I really do. I think you're a wonderful guy. Whatever happened in your past is in your past. What you're doing now is incredible. But your own battles with drugs and the law, what sent you off the rails and who put you back on?
As a 9-year-old child, like I said, my dad and my mum had some issues, and I don't want to dishonour my parents. I really love my parents. But my mum and dad had some issues, and they made some wrong choices, which had an effect on me. And through their wrong choices, I also made wrong choices. Some of the decisions that I made as a little 9-year-old boy, I shouldn't have had to make. I got put into children's homes and foster families, and while my mum had to deal with some of her issues and my dad had sort of taken off. But I didn't want to be with strangers, so I kept running away. And they'd catch me, they'd take me back again. One particular time I ran away, I was at the Parkville Children's Home. I'd run away 3 times. I was 9. Up until that time, I never actually committed a crime. But they caught me sleeping in the Good Samaritan bin at the Midland Gate Shopping Centre. They took me back up to Parkville Children's Home, and I hadn't seen my dad for 2 years. But I remember when I walked into the children's home, and my dad was sitting in there. And the last time I seen my dad was 2 years beforehand at a motel after Mum had kicked him out of the house. But between the ages of 7 and 9, Bill, I actually got sexually abused. I'd seen my mum experience a lot of violence off a man, a lot of stuff that little kids shouldn't actually see. And I had a lot of anger and a lot of bitterness in my heart. And when I walked in that room and seen my dad in there, the lady said to me, says, Peter, you obviously don't want to be here anymore. You're wasting our time and our resources. You can either go with your dad or you can go to Longmore. I remember when I looked at my dad, I heard a voice and it whispered to my head, he doesn't love you anymore. And my brain checked with all the hurt and all the damage that was in my heart and all the confusion. And I remember saying, yeah, that's right. And I felt anger go from my head and land into my heart. And from that day forward, I hated my dad's stomach. I really hated him. So I chose to go to Longmore. So I got put in a boys' prison as a 9-year-old, stripped naked, marched down a row of prison cells, locked in a prison. And I remember jumping on the bed, grabbing hold of my pillow, crying, saying, if you let me out now, I'll behave. I won't run away again. All I want is my mum and my dad. Now, you don't know what it's like to live the life that I've lived. I don't want to be who I am. All I want to be is a good person. There's a lot of people like me.
I can only thank God I've never been in that situation, Peter. But do you believe, can the community beat this ICE problem?
Yeah, but it takes a combined effort. It's like anything. It's like if you have a person caught up in addiction and we handle it single-handedly, one by one, every person gets taken out. But if we come together as a group, what I do is I specialise in 2 things. I specialise, and that's a pretty big word, Bill. I specialise in changing lives, and I also specialise in showing families how to calibrate, how to get together and bring a person to the point where they want to make that change. But unless you get everybody on the same page, especially with families, it doesn't work. One by one they get taken out. I think all of us together have 20 cents that make $1 that gives you the answer. But unless we come together and put it on the table and find it, we're never going to get it.
Well, as I said earlier on, Howard, myself and others, including the Mayor of Melville, Russell Aubrey, we attended Shalom House the other week there. Peter, I was very impressed with your site there. Men living there would have to be very, very thankful to you for what you're providing them. It's very well furnished, it's clean, it's spotless. It's a credit to you. But you are not a qualified counsellor. How have you managed to bring all this together?
Well, without preaching at you, Bill, I'm not a religious fella. I can't stand religion, and I say wherever I go, if the Church of God was like Hungry Jack's, there'd be chockers. Whopper double beef with cheese, every mayonnaise. If you go to Hungry Jack's, you know what you're getting. With churches, you wouldn't have a blooming clue. There's all these different mobs, and often people have been hurt by one church. They put everybody in the same box, but they don't understand their denominations. They cater for different people. I'm a faith man, and I believe that God is God. I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. I got brought to my knees in 2001 by God, and I had an encounter. He said, Peter, you're going to tell people how to change your life. Now I have a relationship with God. I'm not a religious man. I'm a Christian. I live what I believe. And I reckon the reason I put all this together is because God has shown me what I need to do. I'm a Christian man. I love him.
What you're doing is fabulous for the community. And this weekend coming up, you've got a community open day. Would you like to share some information on that? Details, times, where they can actually go and visit this site?
So the information day, Bill, is held in Henley Brook in the Swan Valley. We normally have 400 or 500 people out. We normally pack it out, and we try to get everybody involved, not just the person caught up in addiction, but also the families. The first half, Bill, is really just for families. We want to equip families. A lot of families think they're doing the right thing, but in actual fact that they're doing the wrong thing. They feel that they're doing the right thing by sparing their children the consequence of their choices because they can't stand to leave them out in the street, so they keep the person in the house. Well, they don't realise they actually take themselves out in the process. So the first part of the day, we're going to calibrate families. We're going to teach them how to guard their heart, to protect themselves, to set boundaries, and how they can put it in practice collectively as a group to bring a person to the end of it themselves. So that's the first part of the day. The second part, we're going to explain the Shalom House program, why it is that we do what we do and why we do what we do works. Again, it's a team effort, Bill. We have 20 or 30 business owners that don't just employ our fellows, they disciple our fellows. There's 4 stages to Shalom program. The first stage, when we get the individual in, we work out what it is that we've got to deal with, family dysfunction, heart issues, financial issues, and what do you want to do with your life, a bit of direction. And we do a lot of foundational work. The second stage, stage 2, is we have these employers where we send our fellas out 2 days a week paid work, and the employers don't actually just employ the fellas, they disciple them in the workplace. It's a good chance for them to put into practice what it is they've learnt within the stage 1. And we can tell from our communication from the employer, is he or isn't he putting into practice what it is that we put in the house. And for years, over time, we increase it from 2 days to 3, 3 days to 4, which moves us to stage 3. They get the keys to the car, phone, come back, they can come and go off the property as they please. And then the stage 4, they get 99.9% control of their life. So basically, Bill, it's discipleship from stage 1 to stage 4, with a whole body of people come alongside them to help them to see what they can't see and walk them through that places of rehabilitation, restoration, or some people like say resocialisation.
Earlier on I spoke about growth, and even though it's a men's program, you have now got a ladies' Shalom Sheilas, you call them, I believe.
Yeah, I do. All I do is disciple people. And what's disciple? Disciple is to live by example, is to come alongside, is to shepherd, is to lead. So we do the men's program, we do a couples program. And we do a men's meeting every Tuesday. We met over in Beachborough and we disciple men to be men, men to be husbands, men to be fathers, men to be sons. And now we've started a Shalom Sheila's group where we actually do the same with women. Us as men, we have a lot to account for in the way that we treat women, the way that we actually live homes, the way we lead our homes. And so what we're going to do is disciple the women like we are with the men. And soon we'll also be doing couples.
So the meetings that you hold, are they open to the public?
They are indeed.
And how can the public find out about these meetings, where you meet, times, etc.?
Best way, Bill, is either to contact me on my mobile, which is 0404 654 004. That number again is 0404 654 004. Or they can get me on Facebook or on our website, which is www.shalomhouse.com.au. That's www.com or shalomhouse.com.au.
And they'll get the information about the open day there as well.
They will indeed.
Peter, thank you again. I honestly am an admirer. I think you've done a fantastic job. It's not. I wouldn't say it's a job, is it? It's a service to the community. And I take my hat off to you. You're doing wonderful things.
Yeah, it's just not, just to clarify, Bill, in order to do what we do, again, it takes a team effort. Everyone's got 20 cents. We have 22 staff. Most of my staff, I work for next to nothing. We have probably 40 or 50 volunteers. We have businesses that actually come alongside by employing our fellows. So it takes a team effort. It takes all of us as a big group. So I'm the one that leads it up, but there's a lot of people that actually deserve the credit, not just myself.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Howard's Army was brought to you by Wright, Homes of Distinction. This is the Sattler Files.